morning, good afternoon, good evening to all gathering today. I am Reverend Carol Houston. I live in New York City, one of the few places on the planet not having a heat wave right now. But I will join with all of you in gathering today as Unitarian Universalists. Please forgive me, I have run out of candles that are useful at home, so we will light a chalice in our hearts today for the knowledge and the community that brings us together to help each other, support each other. I also want to voice another grounding for this meeting. About 10 years ago, the United Nations developed Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, 17 specific goals for building the path to a sustainable, accountable future. These 17 goals, I believe, are a gift to the world because they give a true roadmap of how to get the world to a better place. International Women's Convocation consistently works on goal number 5, which calls for gender equality, for empowerment of women and girls in all countries around the world. That's goal 5. But today we are also working, I believe, on the grounding of goal 16. Goal 16 calls for a pathway to peace, but also calls for equitable access to justice at all levels in the world. And it calls for the building of accountable, inclusive institutions at all levels. You will hear today a story of a search for justice in Bolivia and a search for accountability in the institution of government and law there. If you, the chat includes the instructions on how to get closed captions on your screen. We also will be using the chat for questions. It is an honor today to welcome Olga Flores Bedregal to talk with us. Olga is a deeply gifted and empowered activist in her country and for the world. She is one of those activists who have led marches in difficult places. Olga has done hunger strikes, has done the things that we think maybe we should do as well, but often don't. Olga does them. And I have deep respect for her work as an activist. She's also a spiritual leader, one of the people in the world who have discovered in their own hearts and in their own ways of thinking, liberal religion in the way that Unitarian Universalist works with liberal religion. And she found the Unitarian Universalist Association of North America. She reached out to us, came to the US a number of times, quite a number of times, to ICUU meetings, to General Assembly meetings, and to International Women's Convocation meetings. She also invited people from the Northern Hemisphere to go to Bolivia, to be with women there in working for a better world and working for accountability and progress on sustainable development goals, like goal 6 for water. And it was a joy to be with Olga in Bolivia. It was a joy for me to lead worship with her, her wonderful way of doing worship, including Mother Earth, the Earth Goddess, and the liberal principles that all of us try to sustain in our lives as well. Some of you here have a particular memory of Olga. I know a lot of you have met her, but I have a particular memory of a morning in the church center during the ICUU meeting that was held on Long Island in 2014, I believe. And Olga was there, and questions were being taken, and there were UN and government people there. And Olga raised her hand, and Olga stood up, and Olga showed us all how to speak truth to power, how to keep going, how to ask the questions, how to demand the answers. That was an amazing moment, and I remember it always as my image of Olga, along with an image of a spiritual leader, building a congregation around her in Bolivia, building a church, and building a better world. And so, Olga, I give it over to you for the story of your brother Carlos and all that has flowed from that in recent years. As all of you listen, please, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We will have time for questions and discussions afterwards, which we will do in the group as a whole, not in small groups. But we want to spend much of our time today listening to Olga's story. And so, Olga, please talk with us.
Thank you very much, Carol, for this nice and generous presentation about me. And thank you very much to all of you that are coming to this talk. But in fact, it will be a memorial to my brother, because as Carol said, my brother disappeared, and it will be a memorial for all the people that around the world disappeared, particularly 140,000 in Latin America during the 70s and 80s decade. So it is, I think that your presence here is an act of solidarity, not just to assist, to listen something about the human rights, but you are engaged at this moment to the presence of a memorial of all those people that disappeared in America Latina during, as I say, during the 17, 18, and they disappeared because they are social fighters. They were fight for a better world. They were fighters against dictatorship in Latin America, and they were dreamers that want a better society. So this fact we don't have to ignore, because as far as we name them, they are present in the history. If we don't name them, probably will be completely disappear. This first is a thing that is I want to say thanks to everybody of you that are participating. In a way, we are in an act of justice. Justice because they will not disappear as nothing, and because the objective of this terrible repression is to absorb in a world of that they don't exist. They don't exist in the history. They don't exist as human beings. they disappear. And this began when in Argentina, the mothers of Plaza de Mayo began to name them and to say there are 30,000 disappeared in Argentina. And that's why we have to name the victims of the dictatorship in Latin America. Because one of the objectives that I'm to disappear one people is to abstract of the world. Let's say he doesn't exist. You can, where is they? Then they have been disappeared. And this was one of the objectives of this terrible practice of the repression. The second thing that I want to share in this moment is not just to define why they were disappeared, and that's why it's important to talk about Latin America because it's a continent that suffer a terrible repression politics before and now. What's going on in Latin America? Because we think that, oh, the dictatorship passes and now we live in democracy, and as think that very superficial, no? But I want to inform you about the situation of human rights in Latin America. And the third thing that I want to speak about you is about how are going the human rights situation in the international organization. As Carol mentioned, we are in we belong to the United Nations goals and many things, and it's important to perceive how it and to know how are working this with the sentence that we have of the disappearance of my brother in the Latin American, no, it's not Inter-American Court of Human Rights. We have a sentence that declared that the Bolivian state is responsible about this crime. So these things I will develop in this morning. As you perceive, I am a little bit stressed, but I think that speaking to you, that we belong a community, and I will be happy if you make me questions if something is not so clear about what I am speaking. And now I will begin as to make a consideration about in what consists the enforced disappearance, and in the second moment, why they implement in Latin America. So by definition, the enforced disappear is the sum of violations of human rights, because at the beginning, the one force of the state arrests somebody, and after they deny that they arrest, and they put in a jail that it is clandestine, that it is not known, and they denied any information about the person. And after that, we presume that they torture and after kill. So, but during this are denied all the rights, because not only is arrest, not is only what is that the person is tortured, that the person doesn't communicate, and the person doesn't exercise their human rights right. And this is one important thing that we have to understand. Why is they invent each time worse and worse method of torture the person? Is because they want to annihilate any opposition. And this is one important thing, because sometimes we say, oh, politics, I don't like politics. But you have to perceive that all human beings belong to a political society. And these have consequences to our politics of domination. And this one thing is that I want to say. The other is that we have to analyze the society has two mechanisms to dominate. One is consensus, and the other is coercion. The consensus comes by the mass media, by the education, by the propaganda. No, so you accept all what it is, not just the law, you accept costumes, you accept everything by that consensus. And probably in one society, as for example, United States, you accept because it comes from the propaganda. And if sometimes if you refuse to use, let's say, something, or they began to manipulate the mass media, so you accept everything, no? And this is by consensus. And the coercion is when sometimes, as let's say Pinochet, the majority of the population in Chile don't want to accept the military coup, and they use coercion when it's not enough the consensus. In all the society, we have one part of coercion. You dominate the society, and even in the family, when your children don't accept something, you persuade them. But if it doesn't work, sometimes many people don't have the capacity to persuade them and use the coercion, no? So to punish. So this is a mechanism in the society that it's important to know. And as far one society is weak in the mechanism of democratic and consensus and propaganda, mass media doesn't accept, we have the coercion. There are terrible dictatorships today in the world that are using the repression and terrible methods of state terrorism to dominate the society. And that is one area that we have to see, because if we all defend the life and the right to speak, to do of freedom, but unfortunately, this is not named. And that's why for me it's important to have this talk with you, because sometimes we approve something and we don't know if it is true or if it is not true. That is why it's important to see this fact of domination by consensus or by coercion. for example, you think sometimes in the United States, there are waves that sometimes one thing is approval and after change, and so you don't have formal repression. But in a way, that doesn't mean that it's not, that the coercion doesn't exist, but it is, let's say in percentage, less percentage of coercion. We see, for example, during the 60s, when there was a confrontation, they used repression. But after, the consensus change and move, and the politicians take care that you never broke this consensus, because when it breaks in one society, it is fragmentary, and this is dangerous for the order. And for example, it's known that they signed the peace treaty when was the war of Vietnam, because the society becomes in confrontation. Opinions were against, opinion, the mostly opinions was against, and the other defended. But they don't have to break the consensus. Well, this thing is an introduction to understand why in America Latina we have periodically repression, democracy, dictatorship, democracy, in general in our history, particularly in Bolivia, because the young people, is my brother, Juan Carlos Flores Bedregal, when I was young, we fight too much because the social injustice was terrible. And we see that the workers, the team miners were dying because they were living in terrible conditions. So that's all the young people will rebel against this kind of oppression, social oppression. And that's why we assume that the socialism was a solution. You have to think 50 years ago when the society was different. And the young people will want to fight, and there was a terrible dictatorship, not just in Chile, not just in Argentina and Paraguay, in Brazil, in Bolivia, because they want to silence of these voices of rebellion against the social injustice. And that's why we have to they open our eyes to the social injustice. And that's why we have to honor this tribute to these people that open our eyes to the to this reality. No? The second thing that I want to say is why I want to make this memorial to all the disappeared, because one disappeared don't has it's not, doesn't belong to the world of people alive, and doesn't belong to the people of dead, because we don't have, not just because it is it's not we don't have the certificate where it is written that this person is dying, because for example, my brother disappeared in the Estado Mayor of the army, and this and we have to we have to claim to the military forces about where is his body. If we stay quiet, that means that we are accepting that he doesn't exist. And that's why 43 years after, we still, all the family, and you belong to my family as a community, we have to name him because it's part of that. If something is missing, you have to as a human being, he has the right to die, and see how all the rights are violating in one disappear. And that's why we the family are all the time claiming to the army, claiming to the state, where is Carlos? And we ask for their body, and they don't want to say nothing. We can say as the first disappear Abel, no, when God asked, where is your brother? And this is something that we have to think that we, the human beings, we are prepared to one moment that some person is die and it is finished. But it is a torture in the time when you don't have, you cannot say Carlos is die. And that's why for us it's important. And finally, I want to speak about the situation, the legal situation of Carlos. And we in Bolivia appeal to all the laws for asking here. And we were fighting so much for the declassification of the military record files, because we know that the military registered, and you see even in Germany, everywhere, the military registered everything. And in the records, for sure, there is, we can say, where is Carlos? But that it is a secret of state. Nobody wants to tell what happened with them, and they want to don't open this. But we, as human rights fighters, we have to claim for the open of the military records, to know the history, to know what happened with, not just with Carlos, other disappeared, to what happened, why, who was the responsible of, let's say, bombarding the workers in the mines population. And this is what it's for me very important, then maintain the true the history. And finally, we appeal to all the laws in Bolivia, and when it was not possible to open nothing to obtain justice, we go to international level, to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. After 11 years, finally, we have a sentences that declare responsible the state. But we want to say at this moment that we have to fight so strong with the Inter-American Commission and court, because they are linked to the state, and so they don't give you all the what you ask, we ask, for example, that the state honor with a film to know what happened with Carlos. Here, as you see, I am trying to expose with big difficulty, but to show to the young people what was the Carlos, and what for what he fight, and what happened in these years. And we speak the right of true, no? And so we go to this court. We have to fight a lot because the Inter-American Court are the states, and that's why for us was significant, but it was not so easy in the international level. And I want to say you finally, how is the situation of human rights in Bolivia? Till now, is Carlos disappeared. That means that this practice, horrible practice, are using now at the moment, because we recover democracy, but we didn't recover Carlos. So this is a permanent crime under it. They have an answer to us. And believe me, in the Evo Morales regime was the worst period. They want to hide this, all what happened with Carlos. In this period, I was arrested by the police just because I was asking about what happened with my brother. At the beginning, when Evo Morales was in the government, we were optimistic. We say, finally, we can see the truth, but it was the worst times. And with this, I finish. What is the link? Because the military coup that killed my brother Carlos was linked with the cocaine mafia. And at the present, Evo Morales is linked with the cocaine mafia. And this is why it's so difficult to fight in Latin America, because everybody thinks, oh no, now it's democracy. But what kind of democracy that maintains hidden in the dark, those disappear. There's no reason. If you are not linked with the past, you can open the military records. But this is the contradiction, and that's why at the moment in Bolivia, we, as personally, I, as family of one disappeared, we are not. We have a kind of persecution. And this is what is important, because sometimes appear in the media, this is the first indigenous president, but it is not true. And there is, we have to be aware about this phenomenon. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you very much of this, of your solidarity in this fight.
Thank you, Olga, for all you shared with us. I'm going to ask Joey, I guess, to bring forward any questions that are in the chat, or to call on people who may have hands up. I would like to start out with a question, Olga, about the Inter-American Court. You have been presenting to the court for a long time, and you are finally getting some response, but it sounds like they're not helping yet. Or what's the status of the case right now? I didn't understand that.
Yeah, we have a sentence, but it's so general. They say that the state is responsible, but we want to have what it's called the right of the truth, derecho a la verdad, the right to know the truth, what happened, and to recover the body. And this is not till the moment is generically the sentences, but the state is not doing nothing, no, and will not do nothing because the sentence is so generic and not specifically, and I am not so optimist, and the situation is that too much word, too much declarations, but in fact, nothing concretely. And for example, we ask to the court that honor the memory of Carlos with an institute of environment analyze, because what Carlos, the last was written a law about. Maybe Carmen can help me and explain what about of this issue, because Carmen has better English and can explain. Carmen.
Yes, hello and good morning. Well, among some of the things that my uncle Carlos did while he was alive, sorry, was he wrote the beginning of the first environmental law, a document that we have that is written by his hand, is not a document that it's in computer or typed. It's his first ideas of having an environmental law. And within that environmental law, he proposed to have an institute for environment, to do like research and to follow up on those issues that are important, like in Bolivia, especially related to natural resources and other environmental issues. So those are two things that, for example, have not been taken into account by the International Court of Human Rights, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, sorry. And that's why in the last years we've been working to have a definition for defenders of human rights and environment, which is now in the Escazú Agreement, and now it has been recognized by UN and has a definition, as well as the right to a healthy environment. Thank you. Over to you, Olga.
Yeah. This institute, for example, how my brother was a politician, he was a deputy, and a deputy legislate. And why we think that it is important to have this his presence in the history, because when we were children, we traveled in Bolivia, and we saw that, for example, each time of period of rains, the people lost their cattle, they lost their houses, because they don't know, they build their homes in so close to the river, and this is if you generate policies, many people, especially the poor people, will not lost when happen this climatic phenomenon. No, so maybe are simple things for you, but in a country that in Bolivia is there is a lack of research about the environment. This has enormous significance for the people, because we suffer too much. For example, when if you analyze how to take care about the rivers, and so everybody has water, it's something that can He was so human, Carlos, and was thinking all the time about the poor people, how solve the poor people, and not just environmental is something general. So, particularly in Bolivia, we have to look for these things.
Thank you. Jofi, do we have questions, or are there any hands raised to ask questions?
I do not see any specific questions in the chat. So I think it's if you do have a question, just raise your hand. Gabor Kish would like to speak. So Gabor, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you for that talk. I'm just curious how many or what percentage of disappeared people eventually make it back into society and can continue their lives, if any?
In Bolivia, unfortunately, nobody. There are three cases of that went to the Inter-American Court, and just as a declaration as we have, but nothing. They don't turn back the body of the disappeared, and they don't are considered as death.
Okay, thank you. And Bruce.
Questions?
Yes, Bruce Knotts raised his hand. So Bruce, go ahead.
Hello, Olga. It's very good to see you. It's been a long time. Thank you very much for this presentation. Tell us a bit about, I know you've had a lot of frustration with the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. How is that working for you, and how would you like it to work better than it is?
Yeah, the Inter-American system has the Inter-American Commission that operates as an attorney, no? So you send all the information to the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights. And we were waiting about 9 years to prove, but we went with everything, as I told you, with everything that in Bolivia was not possible to obtain justice, to obtain truth, to obtain nothing. And that's why they accept our petition. We wait 8 years, something that was clearly. And I think that there is the states work put their hands for have something that it's accord of their interests, and that's why one thing. And the other is that we don't have to accept that it is very nice one petition to one sentence is approved, but in the fact, if it is just a declaration, it is not valid. And for me, it's important that we have to see that the things are changing in international level, in the national level. The sentence is not just a declaration for the world. The sentence has to change something in the national situation. And this is a faculty that has the court. And the court just put something general declaration, but not specific things that can change. For example, we ask to the president of Bolivia, because it's a faculty, to return the body of my brother that is in a military building, yeah, and they have to we have the mandate of the national court to give us the desclassification of the files. It doesn't, and they don't say nothing. And I think that it is a faculty, I think it is a faculty of the court to it's an inappellable sentence, and they can say exactly that they have to order to turn back the body of my brother. We are waiting 43 years, and it's a right that they have or say what happened. If they're fired, it's okay, but they have to prove what happened. Excuse me, but my English is not enough at this moment.
Thank you very much. It's very clear. Thank you.
Are there other questions?
Yes. Robert Jan de Vries raised his hand. So Robert, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because, like, unfortunately, like given like Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, like the whole region, like this is something that's in the past. Like what I was gonna ask was like, given all of your experience, what are causes that we can support to prevent this potentially in the future? I think that is another part of like this conversation that should be like addressed, is like, how do we stop this from happening again? Any thoughts on that? And this is like essentially for the whole group.
Oh, it's a very, very interesting question, because we have to see that the perpetrators of this crime are all the time changing the strategy. First, when it was happened, they say it disappeared. Probably they are in the countryside, so you can go and search there, etc., etc. But at the moment, the repression in Latin America is different. As you hear, for example, we have in all America Latina some kind of democracy, and they are not using this openly. But for example, in the relatives fight for have a convention, international convention against the enforced disappear. When Carlos disappeared, there was not a convention. So the relatives work a lot in the inter-American system and in the UN system for have a convention against the enforced disappear. And so the perpetrators know this and now change a different strategy. And you see, for example, they don't are using the army for repression. They are using in Latin America, as in Mexico, you will see they disappear 40 students, but the perpetrators were not the army, were these gangs. They are linked with the mafia of cocaine business, and this is the form that it is taking. The disappearances. Mexico at this moment has a big problem with this. And we have to read that the perpetrators are minds, ill minds, that all the time are making better and better the worse and worse the repression. And as far as we have a healthy mind, we don't think in things like this, but now it is happened this, that are using not formal army, but this kind of repression. That's why it's important to all the times see how it's going, the coercion in the society.
Okay, thank you. So, but like, are there other organizations that are active like throughout like Latin America, Central America, that are actively and probably putting their lives at risk, trying to oppose these type of like actions that like somebody from like North America can support? Because obviously like it's like a difficult you know, like it's hard to support when you don't know what you're supporting. So like, is there like are you aware of any organization that like is like very active on like trying to like fight the oppression, trying to fight the everything, so that like again, so that this hopefully won't happen again?
Robert, believe me, but in my time was easy to fight because we can see easily where the repression comes. It is the army, and it is the violence of the state. At the moment, we can say the repressors dress as leftist, as people progressist, and they are annulating people that is different, thinks different. And that's why, for example, in my times, when I was young, it was easy to have a book with signed people that that ask for a petition for freedom here or that, or for democracy. But at this moment, these petitions are we don't have any more. And what the perpetrators did, they annulate the organization of human rights. As you know, for example, they introduce people in as agents in the human rights organization. So that's why, for example, I founded the Asociación de Familiares de Desaparecidos in Bolivia. And after now, this association says that there is no problem with disappearance, that everything is and it's with the official through. And that happened. It's incredible how fast they adequate the intelligence systems to new situations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
It's
go ahead.
But thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking at the clock. Actually, I also have a question, but I'm reading in the chat now. There's a question from Claudia. When authoritarian people are seeking power and are intimidating people supporting democracy, have you seen a way to confront this hidden oppression?
It's a hard question because we cannot generalize it to all the world, let's say, or generalize it to one region or one country. This is why it's to be a human rights activist for me is to improve a conscience of the human dignity, one of the 7 principles that we have, the Unitarians. And that's why, for me, this kind of things is more important than to have one institution. In my country, I have my group of women for justice, but we don't want to become an institution with bylaws and like this, because it immediately changes when you become an institution. But when you are giving this social conscience, and the people becomes more informed and becomes more consciently and have in their soul more goodness, this the change that we can do more that formally in the law. Now nobody changed because we have a law or there is the things change when in your soul everything change. That's why I am very happy that you stayed so long with this conversation. Thank you very much to everybody of you that follow this conversation and become aware of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga.
Thank you, Olga.
Carol, can I just have one more question? Maybe the short one. Tomorrow is an important day. Tomorrow is the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. And you mentioned Evo Morales, right, as the Bolivia's first indigenous leader. And there was a lot of expectation when he came into office, which clearly did not play out. Clearly, there was a lot of disappointment in Evo Morales' presidency. In your opinion, in terms of human rights, has any good been achieved during his presidency? Maybe we can end on a positive note with one thing. Has anything good come out of his presidency, in your opinion, Olga?
First, it is a lie that he is the first indigenous president of Bolivia. It is a lie because in the 19th century, we have one president that was Andrés de Santa Cruz y Calahumana. Second, in Bolivia, we don't consider indigenous Evo Morales. He doesn't speak a native language. In Bolivia, there are 3 languages that are very common speak. He doesn't speak Aymara, he doesn't speak Quechua, and no Guarani. And more than 16 years in the power, and he can learn at least to speak in Aymara or in Quechua. But if you refuse to speak your mother language, that means that in your mind something is not like this. Second, I was in the 8th March in defense of the territory indigenous Tipnis, no? National Park, Tipnis. And Evo Morales did a big repression. And these eyes and my body feel how they repress. They come a convoy with the military and take out the children of their mothers, and through separate children than mothers. This is a kind of, by definition, of crime of that genocide when you take out a population out of children, take out of their parents. And what saved us was the people of Bolivia that were against Evo Morales. All, so, you know, he dressed something as socialist, as indigenous, but all what he did was against. And we have during these 16 years, the most big devastation of forest was in this period. So speak about motherland, Pachamama, big, just in speech, because in the fact happened the contrary and was supporting the mafia of the cocaine. Now in Bolivia, we find almost 1 month, tons of cocaine that were taken out of Bolivia. This is a terrible reality, but this is one strategy to dress as a lamb when you are a wolf.
Thank you. We are at our end of time, I think, together. I do want to say that in 2 weeks, there will be another time to talk about the United Nations. Again, there's no regular Tuesday gatherings in the summer, so we're taking them over for social justice gatherings. So please be looking for that. We had a delegation at the United Nations last month for the high-level political forum, and we want to talk with people about that. So that'll be in 2 weeks again on a Tuesday. But I want to thank you, Olga, so much for what you have shared. Please keep us informed, keep us in the loop about what is happening with you. We want to do something, and listening is one thing we can do. We can support and be with you as a larger community. And we can remember your brother Carlos. May his name remain with us. May his loss be our mourning too, our sense of loss. And as Carmen said, he was talking about environment and climate long before a lot of other people were. And we will hold that in our memories as well. So thank you to all who gathered together today. Thank you, Olga. Be safe, be well, and let us know how we can support you in weeks and months and years to come. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. And don't lose the hope and the hope of changing everything with love.
Yes.
Ciao.
Todavía cantamos, todavía pedimos, todavía soñamos, todavía esperamos. A pesar de los golpes que asestó a nuestra vida, el ingenio del odio desterrando el olvido. A nuestros seres queridos, todavía cantamos, todavía pedimos, todavía soñamos, todavía esperamos. Que nos digan a dónde han escondido las flores que aromaron las calles persiguiendo un destino. ¿Dónde se han ido? Todavía cantamos, todavía pedimos, todavía soñamos, todavía esperamos. Que nos den la esperanza de saber que es posible que el jardín se ilumine con las risas y el canto de los que amamos tanto. Todavía cantamos, todavía pedimos, todavía soñamos, todavía esperamos. Por un día distinto, sin apremios ni ayuno, sin temor y sin llanto, porque vuelvan al nido. Ojalá sea así. Nuestros seres queridos, todavía cantamos, todavía pedimos, todavía soñamos, todavía esperamos, todavía soñamos, todavía esperamos, todavía cantamos, todavía pedimos, todavía soñamos, todavía esperamos, todavía cantamos, todavía pedimos, todavía soñamos, todavía esperamos.
Goodbye, all. Thank you.
Thank you.